Hi, I'm Jenny. I've been painting for over 40 years and I use the wet into wet or alla prima method, and I want to share with you what I have learned. You can oil paint too, so let's have some fun. Here's a peek at what we're going to paint today.
It's a floral arrangement in a silver teapot. This one's a great painting to learn how to do the basic rose.
Our pattern is ready, so let's get started. And I'm going to start off by putting in my leaves. I know that I have some dark leaves in this dark green, so I want to start off with this because these are going to be darker right up next to these flowers. So I want to make sure that I get these underpainted in here. Very little paint. It's the nice thing about the this method of painting with this wet into wet technique. Remember, my canvas has a little bit of medium on it. I know that right underneath these flowers here it's going to be really dark, so I'm going to keep these darker right up against that flower. I'm not going to worry too much about getting paint on my flowers. That's perfectly fine. You'll see why when we get to doing the flowers. It's really kind of good to have those flowers have a little bit of the background color right on their edges. It helps them sit down in there really nicely. There's another one right up here. I'm trying to keep the flowers, the background right around the flowers, nice and dark. That's why I'm putting all these flowers in here, or these leaves in here. Just base coating these in, very rough. I'm not worried about making them look like leaves in particular. I'm just thinking about getting that color in there. Very dark green. There's many different ways to paint this painting, but I like to start with the background and get the background in there first. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull this green into my background around all my flowers. I've got a bunch of little daisy-like flowers in here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull that dark green in there, and then I'm going to mix a little bit of the cad yellow and cad orange onto my brush. As I go up here, I'm going to pull this color up and I'm going to start changing that. I want to bring all the colors that I'm going to have in my flowers into my background. So as I start to come up here, I'm going to pick up different colors. Now you can change this background, these background colors, to be pretty much anything that you want. It's just when you get in and around your roses, be sure you get some of this, whatever background color you're putting in, be sure to get that in behind and around your flowers. And there's a leaf. Go ahead and get that general shape in there. I just want to make sure that I get color all around my flowers up here. And I want it to be kind of dark. Next to the flowers. And then as I get out from those basic roses, I will let it become lighter and mix in some other colors. Maybe some lighter greens up in here. And you'll notice that I'm using a very loose crisscross stroke. Very loose. Don't have as much medium back here on my edges. There's a leaf. Just make sure I've got its general shape in there. Darker around my roses. I don't want to lose my pattern back there, so I still want to see my daisies back in there. Just getting color back there. I've got greens and I've got some cad yellow and cad orange mixes back in here, just to give it a little bit of a flavor of the other colors that I'm going to include in the rest of the painting. Just kind of scrumbling around back in here. I know there's a big leaf right there. I'll put that in. Okay, so now I've got all three of the big roses kind of covered. And I'm going to fill in the areas in the background around the teapot. Now I know I have there's another rose or a leaf right here. Just roughly drop that in. There's several leaves right in through here. I'm not going to work on those too much because I know I've got some background behind them to do. I do know that right in here, in this area right beside the teapot, is going to be a light area. I'm going to go ahead and fill that little area right there in. Right over here on this side, I'll add that same color because I know this area is going to be nice and light right in there. Then right here at the end of the spout, I know I want that to be a little brighter. Add a little bright there. And then as I come down, I'm going to go back to my greens. Take these on out to the edge. Right behind this teacup, I'm going to make that a little darker right in through here. Don't want to lose my leaf. Right here a little darker. That will help my teacup show up a little bit better. Right in back here in this, the hole where the handle is, I want that to be a little lighter. Get some green in there. And then right down in here. Now you can use a smaller brush for this, but I'm just putting in some base color. I'm not real concerned about it being perfectly neat at this point. Right back here as well. I'm letting this be really loose back here. You see, I'm not trying to smooth it out too much at this point. Right through here. And a little bit of that orange to my color right here, because I want to change the color of the tabletop, and then I just want this to kind of blend up and away. I don't want to make a back edge to the tabletop. Over here, behind the teacup over here, I definitely want this to be, or behind the creamer over here, I want this to be lighter. I'm going to fill that in right there. That's a teacup. Right in here, I'm going to go ahead and put some green back in here. There's a leaf that kind of comes down to the side here. So I'm going to fill this in with some lighter green. See, I can still see there's a leaf that comes down there. I may add another leaf right in here, but we'll wait until we get our teapot painted to finish that out right there. Okay, but up in here, I'm kind of thinking that there's light that kind of goes behind this teapot. That's why I'm making this lighter down here. Okay, and then we're going to grab some of that orange and darker green and kind of finish out our background over here. Just want to mix that up a little bit over here. Again, fade it down and let it be a little lighter right in there. Now, every once in a while, you kind of have to get back from your painting and see the effect that you're getting. It's very light and loose. Back here. Now I know this area that I have marked off is going to be nice and dark because that's the shadow that this teapot is going to make. So it kind of goes from dark right there underneath of there. and then kind of fades up into that area back there, up into that light area. And I'll get a smaller brush here after a while and kind of work on that a little bit more. But I know down in here it gets a little lighter. And then over in here, this is going to be nice and light right here in the front. Except right underneath of the teapot right here. That's going to get a nice dark shadow, and then right over here, right underneath of the teacup, there's going to be a nice dark shadow. So this will get pulled out. And we'll restate those darks later when we're working on these areas. Fades down and gets lighter. Now that's kind of our background, okay? Now something that you can do when you get done putting these colors in is you can take a little mop brush and you can kind of gently go over these areas very, very lightly, kind of pull the different colors together and get rid of any large brush strokes that might be showing. But it really just kind of fades that background right into the back. Can you see that? But we're very, very gently and take that mop brush very gently, just very, very lightly, barely touching the canvas. See, just the tip of that brush. I'm not pushing, I'm not getting any kind of pressure. I'm just using the very tip of that brush. And I'm just pulling the different colors together and fading that background. It just kind of pushes that background back. Okay? And then I take and wipe off the tip. See, I just have very little paint on the tip of my brush. I'll wipe that off. And just wipe it off. And that's our background. Okay, so far on my background I've used a 3/4 inch flat brush, and now I'm going to change to about a 1/2 inch wide flat brush, and we're going to work on our tea service. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that really dark Prussian blue ivory black with a touch of alizarin crimson in it, and I'm going to pick out the dark areas right along the edges of my teapot. I know are dark. I'm just going to start painting in the dark areas. I know right underneath of my leaves up here is going to be very dark. There's going to be some green that mix in with this. That's perfectly fine. That's actually good. Those colors to kind of blend together up here because the teapot is silver and it's going to have reflections of these colors in its surface. So it's okay if there's a little bit of green mixed in. We'll add that actually on purpose here in a few minutes. Okay, so I'm looking for these dark areas along the edge of this teapot. I'm not sure how big I want that leaf to be, so I'm just gonna pull a little bit of that in. This color is kind of a dull bluish gray. That's what I'm looking for here. And I'm looking for just the dark areas. I know along the bottom here is going to be nice and dark. Along this edge over here. Right down here on its little base. I'm going to go ahead and fill that in with some fairly dark, right along that where they attach. Right there. Bring this dark out a little bit. I'm going to look over here at the teapot spout. Along this edge right here is going to be nice and dark. The light in this painting is coming from the right, so I'm keeping that in mind as I paint this. Right along that seam there is going to be dark. Bringing this dark down, but I'm bringing it down very lightly. I don't want this to be real dark all over. And then I'm going to start bringing this color up a little bit into this round area of the teapot. Again, I might go back and emphasize this right along this edge. I know that's going to be the darkest part right there. This edge over here as well. And then I'm going to pick up some of that lighter blue color and I'm going to start bringing a little bit of that in. And as I bring it in, I'm kind of blending it in with that dark, just little crisscross strokes. If I lose my dark, I can always go back and add more, but I don't want to lose it. But I do want to get a little lighter now as I get towards the center. This pot is rounded, so we're kind of going to try to create the idea that in the center this pot is lighter. And there's going to be a little shiny spot right over here because the light can hit that right there. This area up here. Start bringing in some of that lighter blue. right over on the edge of the spout right here, we know this is going to be really light, so I'm just going to pick up on my dirty brush. I'm going to pick up some white and mix it right in with that lightest color that I've got there. And I'm just going to give myself a little shinier, brighter edge right through here. Right there. I go back to my dark because I think right in here needs to be a little darker. Right there. Okay, there's also right in the spout here, there's a dark spot right in here. That's where the pour spout would be if this was holding tea, right? Emphasize that back edge a little bit more. And emphasize this area right here a little bit more. Now I'll go back in here in a minute and add even brighter area there. Okay, go back into this area again. Now I'm going to pick up on my brush, I'm going to pick up some just white. And right in this spot, we've got a spot right here where we know the light is really hitting a little bit more there. So I'm going to put in a little brighter white. I'm keeping it rounded, keeping these things rounded here. Keeping in mind the shape of the pot. Little accents. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush. Let me pick up that mop brush again, right while I've got this before I go any further, and I'm just going to blend a little bit of this, mop a little bit of this, these colors, some of my strokes away. I don't want to get rid of them completely because a silver teapot will have all kinds of highlights and shadows showing up in it. So that's looking pretty good. Again, wipe this off. And I'll pick up a little bit of this lighter blue for this edge right here and then pull that back in. That looks pretty good. And then clean up my little spout up here a little bit. Again, I'm going to go back with a little bit white right on the edge, right there. This has two benefits. One, it covers up our line a little better if it's white. Plus, it gives us the idea that there's a little bit of light catching right there on the edge of that pot. And we want that to kind of show up right there as lighter. And re-emphasize this little area right here a little bit more. Right underneath of here is not going to get as much light, so I can probably pull a little bit of darker right in here. Pull that around. And I still want to brighten this whole area a little bit more. Straight white, let it kind of blend but not blend. I'm just putting a little extra emphasis. Right there and there. Maybe a touch right over here as well. Okay, now I know that this surface is going to get reflected in this pot. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow green and I'm just going to give myself a little reflection of that surface right in where it would be reflecting in the surface of this pot, right in here. Don't want to lose my round. And go back over here with a little bit of alizarin crimson and blue. Kind of clean up this edge and darken this edge right in here just a little bit. Same thing right up in here. Underneath these leaves, I know this area is going to be nice and dark. So I'm going to take a little bit of that alizarin crimson and blue right around here as well. I'm going to worry about my brush strokes too much right yet, because I can always mop them away, right? Right up under this, under these leaves. I'm going to go back up here and give myself just a touch darker, but add a little green to that blue so that we can kind of see those reflections a little bit in that pot. Okay, I'm going to mop this up in here, get rid of my brush strokes very gently. Pull these colors together. Now then, I'm going to add right up in here. I know that these leaves reflected, but so is this rose going to be reflected, right? I'm going to take a little bit of alizarin crimson and I'm just going to kind of blend that little bit of that color in there as if there's a little bit of reflection of that rose in there. And I'm going to kind of pull it down, mop it. I don't want it to be too obvious. Let this blend a little bit there. Then I know over here there's going to be maybe a touch of that in there as well, right? Just a touch there. Over here, there's going to be a little bit of the rose reflection right along the edge. It's going to catch some of that rose color right along there. And be careful, your spout will have a tendency to get bigger. And then this little teacup is sitting right next to there, so right in here there's going to be a little bit of reflection of that teacup. And I put it on and wipe it away. Right there. Again, we want to emphasize that table. And the last thing I'm going to do with this teapot is right along the base here, I want to emphasize this line right there. A little bit darker right in here. Okay, maybe blend a little bit of this. Wipe my brush. Soften this little edge right here. Don't want that to be too obvious. And anytime we leave brush strokes that we don't like, we can always just kind of mop those away. One last time, I'm going to take straight white and I'm going to emphasize that reflection. Very, very lightly. Just lay that color on there. See how I'm almost turning my brush flat to the canvas right there? That's to get a little bit more paint on there. Right there. Okay, now let's look at this handle. I'm going to start off with the dark blue, and I'm going to put a dark blue line shadow right along the back. You'll notice I'm using the very edge of my brush right up against the line. Up in here I know it's going to be darker. Down along the back of that handle is going to be dark. On the inside of our little curlicues is going to be darker. I'll bring some of that down. You may need a smaller brush for this. If you do, just grab a smaller brush. See, along the bottom it's going to be darker up against that the teapot there. The teapot goes over that edge a little bit, so right in there is going to be darker where it's up against there, right? Back along this edge will be a little darker. See, this handle kind of comes down and then has a little flare right there and right here that is just decorative. Okay. Then on this edge it's going to be a little darker as well. Right in here. Kind of comes over and meets that little spot right there. And then right in the center of the handle, right in through here, it's going to be a little lighter. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that light blue, and white, right in the center. Comes down and kind of flares out. Right there, and it kind of flares out this direction, this way, and this way. Okay, and then right in here, it's going to flare out along this little knob right here. I'll fix how big it is when I get to doing my other, when I get to doing the cup. But this is going to have a little flare right there too. As I said, you can go back and you can take a smaller brush. Here's a little smaller brush, little filbert, and you can kind of clean up your edges a little bit. Keep it nice and dark there where those connect. Darker on that edge. This is also connecting back in here. Maybe. And then that little top right there and right here and here, there might be just a spark of a little bit lighter. Okay, that's pretty much the handle. While we're in that area, let's work on this little cup. Know that right back here in this area right here is going to be fairly dark. There's like a little bit of the teacup that you, or the cup that you can see right back in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and make it a dark blue. Maybe a little bit of phthalo blue and white so that it shows up against that other area, against that against the handle. Don't want that too bright though, so I'm going to go back in with a little bit of Prussian blue and darken that up. This base right along here, kind of like our base on our teapot, right in through here is going to be nice and dark. Right along this edge is going to be nice and dark. Go back to my bigger brush because I don't want to get this. That smaller brush tends to get a lot more paint on there. I'm going to pull this color, this dark blue. This is that Prussian blue, alizarin crimson. It's got a little bit of white in it. Mix. Just going to pull that. Very little paint. And I'm going to grab some of that lighter blue. Again, we're making a round object, so we want it to be lighter in the center. Light is coming this way, so it's going to hit the center. Got too much paint in there, so I'll just pick it up and move it. Okay, I'm going to pick up a little bit of the lighter blue for right here on this edge. That's up against the light right here. It's going to have a little light on there, and then it's going to pull that back into the cup, the base. Not too much. Okay, I'm going to leave a little rim at the bottom. Is going to be gold. And right along here, right along that base right there, that's going to have a little bit of light coming around the back. So I'm just going to put a little light right there. I can clean up my bottom edge a little bit. Okay, now in the center of the cup up here is going to be nice. It's going to be nice and dark right up here. And then it's going to get a little lighter out on this inside edge, because maybe the light can get just a little bit in there. Okay. I'll emphasize that little light spot right there a little bit more. Okay, see, we now got a nice little round cup, because we've got 3 different shades. We've got our dark, we've got our mid-tone, and then we've got a light right in the belly right here. Okay, now this little cup has some flowers on it, and I'm just going to take a little bit of alizarin crimson, and I'm just really going to kind of give it the idea of flowers. See how I'm just bouncing that little brush around, thinking flowers. Maybe a touch of cad red to just kind of highlight what might be a few petals. Oh, a little white to add a little fluff to those. Okay. Right while I'm there, I'm lost a little bit of my highlight right there. I'm just going to go ahead and add that back in while I'm in the vicinity. Okay, there's the cup all except for the rim, and we're going to do that here when we do the other rim. Let's go over to the other side and do this little cup here. It's pretty much done in the same way. It's less shadow to this one because this one's out front and that one's kind of behind. So, but I'm still going to start out with that blue-gray mixture, that Prussian blue, ivory black, with a little bit of alizarin crimson. Same colors that we used in our teapot. Right in here, I'm going to put the shadow on this side of the cup. I'm also going to put a shadow right along the base, right along here. And right along the base here. I think this pattern, this little bottom edge on this teacup is a little larger than that one, so I'm going to trim this one down just a little bit as I paint. I'm going to call it artist's prerogative, right? A little bit of blue, and I'm going to take some blue and white. A little bit less blue because I want this teacup to be a little lighter. This edge over here needs to be a little lighter. Just kind of blending those colors together, keeping this outside edge lighter right there. Now this edge is going to get a little lighter too, because as the teapot has the reflection, so will this reflection bounce back onto our teacup on this side. So we want to add a little bit of that light right there. I'll lighten this up right here a little bit more. Darken up my right underneath this edge right here a little bit. Now, right, this saucer that's underneath of here is going to be dark right along the base, right along the back over here, because the light is going to cast a shadow back here. And kind of in the cup area. This side is up a little bit, so it's going to have a little bit of a shadow right in there as well. Then right along the back edge here, because this will be raised a little bit, this will be lighter. Along the front here, it's going to catch a little bit more light as well. There. I said I was going to trim this little area down just a little bit here. Inside of the teacup is going to have this edge over here is going to be a little darker. Because the shadow is going to hit that there, and then this inside rim over here will be a little lighter because the light might catch over there. The handle is pretty much like our teapot handle, except you have to pay attention to where the light is, right? The light on this is going to be darker on this inside edge, right there. Let's grab a little bit smaller brush to do that. Try to get the size brush that fits the area that you're working in. A little bit darker right along that top edge. The light won't hit there. Right there. Then it's going to be darker probably right underneath here, still going to be fairly dark. Right there. And I'm going to add a little bit of a gold knob, decorative knob on this, the tip right here. There's going to be like a little gold knob right there. But right along the top edge here, all the way down, the front here is going to be lighter. There we go. A little extra bright highlight right along the top here, maybe. Try to get a little bit lighter white right along there. Well, I've got this smaller brush, get a nice little white highlight going right in here as well. Right in there. A little whiter right there. I'm going to go back to my 1/2 inch brush, get a little bit more light right in through here, kind of brush out my brush strokes. Can use my mop brush if I want to kind of blend a little bit there. Right underneath of here again, I want to emphasize that just a little bit more. See, it just makes that cup look a little bit more rounded right there. And then right under here, this is going to be darker as well, especially along this back edge right in here. Okay. Now, we have to have flowers on the front of this little teacup, right? So I'm just wipe my brush off, same brush. I'm going to put a little bit of alizarin crimson, and I'm just going to use that brush to kind of give the effect, the idea of flowers. I'm not trying to make them look perfect. Wipe that off and grab a little bit of Cad Red. Go in here just with the edge of my brush. Tickle in a little bit of flower shape. I can even go over here and grab a little bit of kind of medium green if I wanted to, and just add a touch of leaf effect. And all I'm doing is just touching the corner of that brush, and it gives it the idea of flowers. A little bit of white, maybe they need a little accent. We don't want these to be too distinct. Okay, now the only thing left to do on our cups is the edge. And to do that, I'm going to pick up a nice small filbert brush. This is about 1/4 inch wide, and it has a nice little tip on it. And I'm going to start off with alizarin crimson. I'm going to take alizarin crimson right on the tip of my brush. If I need to steady my hand, I can always put my finger down. See, I'll put my pinky down over here, and I'm just going to fill in that whole edge, that whole. You should still be able to see your pattern. Very easy. Fill in the top. Fill in this alizarin crimson. This is going to be like the dark shadow part of this rim. And if you get it too crooked or you get it messed up, just go in with the color behind it and clean it up. Okay? See, there's the dark. And I'll wipe the brush. I'm going to go grab some Cad Orange. Let's take some Cad Orange. Now I'm going to look, where is the light coming from and where might it hit? Right over here on this edge, I'm going to put a little bit of this Cad Orange. See, right there. See how it brightens up that edge? Pull that in. A little bit of that right on the top edge of that dark. Little tiny line of that. Right on the top edge. Right on the top again of the rim here. So I'm trying to leave the alizarin crimson underneath of it alone. Right on this edge, it would be on the outside right there. Then I'm going to take that Cad Orange and yellow, mix Cad Orange and yellow together so I get a lighter, kind of a brighter orange yellow color. Mix a little white with it because I want it to stand out. And then again, I'm thinking about where is the brightest light going to be, and I'm just going to put this in the center right there. Okay, go back and get more color right there. This is the highlight. Grab a little bit more white in there, right in the center there, and I'll pull that out to the left, out to the right. See how it just adds a little shine right here on that edge right there. A little bit more white into the white and yellow right there. Pull it out. Maybe right on the rim right here, there might be a touch right there. This would probably come around so that this edge right here is kind of lit up. Right there. Now let's go down and do the, while I've got my brush here, I can see that right back here there's some white showing. I can just fill that in with my green. Got some light green edge right here I can fill in. So you can detail this out. All right, let's go down to the bottom of the cup. Starting over, we're going to fill in that bottom rim with some alizarin crimson. So I'm putting my finger down. Going to go ahead and fill in the alizarin crimson on the rim of the plate as well. Remember, alizarin crimson is our dark shadow color for our gold rim. very carefully, putting my finger down anytime I need to steady my hand. Now, I've got some blue over here that needs to be fixed. Just picking up a little blue. Now, that's why I said you can always go fix any of your edges. I know that right in here, I'm going to want this to be a little darker, because that's that cup or that saucer coming around here. A little more shadow there. All right, now I'm going to go back to my orange, and I'm thinking about where the light might hit. The light on this base is going to hit right in here, right on this edge right here. And then the orange and yellow with a little white in it. Right there on that very, very edge. This needs to remain dark, so I'm just going to emphasize that just a little bit more back in there. Dark, a little whiter. There we go. Go back to the orange. This edge right here is going to get some highlight. I'm going to put this right on top of this area right here, right along the top edge of that alizarin crimson. And leave the alizarin crimson underneath of it. Leave a line of that underneath. Okay, I'm just going to have some of this on the back here as well. Back over here, I'm going to go back and re-emphasize this dark, because this isn't going to get any color other than that alizarin crimson. This is the shadow, remember? So I want to keep that nice and dark. Try to keep the same spacing there. All right, yellow and white. Right along here. Little spark there, pull it both directions. Okay, you see how that just kind of sparks that up? Go back with just a touch more white. Pull that a little brighter right along that edge, maybe even right along this edge up here. Maybe even a little bit right along edge right there. A little bit brighter right here even. Okay, let's go back over to the other side, to this cup, and do our alizarin crimson. Putting my finger down. If I mess anything up with my finger, I can always go back and fix it. There. Gonna get the little bit of orange back here on this back edge. This one's more in shadow, so it's not going to get as much of a highlight, but I'm going to add just a touch of yellow right along that edge. And then I'm going to put a little bit of the orange right along this front edge right there. And maybe a touch of the yellow right along the base right in front there. And that's about it. Now while I'm over here, I see that right underneath here I can straighten this line up by adding a touch of dark green, which I need that to set that down anyway. See how I can clean that edge up? Right in there. A little light green right back here. Clean this little edge up right here. And I want this to be a little lighter right in here. Okay, now before I go on to work on the flowers, I want to just look one last time at my tea kettle and make sure, my teapot here, make sure that things look dark enough, like over here is dark enough. Just going to look for places where I might need to darken my darks. This area right back here, I think looks a little like you really can't see that handle very well. So I'm going to take a little bit of light blue right along this edge here and lighten that up a little bit, just so we can see that handle against that darker background. I think that works. Maybe a little bit darker right in here, kind of clean up that edge right there. Let's go on up to the top and start working on our flowers. I'm going to continue on with this 1/2 inch flat brush. I'm going to grab some dark green and I'm going to look for these lines. I've got some lines that are, I'm just going to mark them. There's a leaf right there that I'm missing. Just going to mark some of these. Go back up here, strengthen some of these leaf shapes. And there's lines where there's like little stems. Just take the edge of my brush and kind of mark a few of those in there so I kind of know where those are. Some of these lines are really the center of those little red flowers. Just kind of putting these leaves back in where I lost them when I did my background. Okay, now I'm going to take, this is about 1/4 inch wide filbert. I'm going to move in so you can see how I create these red flowers. I'm going to take straight alizarin crimson and I'm just going to start adding little petals. Now they're pointing down, so I'm just going to push and pull. See how I just take that tip, push it and pull up? It makes kind of a little pearl teardroppy shape. Okay? But the main thing I want you to notice is that I'm not going to try to make them like little tree posts on either side. I put some on either side and then I'm going to come out here and I'm going to mess them up a little bit. Okay? Same thing with this one. These are push-pull little teardrop shapes. These are upside down, so I'm just gonna let this kind of droop down here, right up here to this area. These are pointed up. Start at the top, little push-pull, push-pull, push-pull. But I don't want to make them like exactly on either side of the stem. I want to add some in the center of the stem. Okay, just really irregular. Push, pull, push, pull. This one over here, push, pull up, push, pull. I'm doing them quickly so that I do them a little sloppy. I don't want them to be exactly the same on like little tree limbs or something. I want them to be uneven. Let's see, maybe we can have another one right here. I don't have a line for it, but maybe right in here there would be another one. Again, push, pull, push, pull. All right, now, once I have the dark in there, I'm going to take straight, once I have the dark, I'm going to take straight Cad Red. And I'm going to go up here to the top. I'm going to think about where's the light coming from the right. And I'm just going to highlight a few of these edges. Now I'm not going to highlight all the way down, just on the top tips of some of these as they're in the light. Don't want to cover up all the dark. These are just little accent flowers. They're not meant to be the star of the show. It's this one way up at the top. Okay. Go back down here to the ones on the bottom. Again, I'm only thinking about where the light might hit these from the right hand side and maybe some in the center, right? I'm going to leave the ones back in the back there that would be underneath those leaves. So I'm going to leave those dark. This one over here. Okay, there's our little red flowers. Now I'm going to work on the roses because I think those would be next. And the little white daisies would probably be, some of those would be over. I'm going to go back to my 1/2 inch brush. Roses are kind of, they're shaped in like a cup and saucer kind of shape. See, this is the center. See that little cup right there? And then we've got all these little saucers, layers of saucers under, you know, and that kind of go underneath. But they all attach to the center, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some straight alizarin crimson. Well, I might even mix some black with it. I want this to be really dark. Right along the bottom of that cup right there, I'm going to put some dark right under the base of these leaves, of these petals. See, these petals go back in. This is the edge of the petal. And these lines are kind of like the dark areas that go back in underneath of these areas of the outer edge of the petal. So I'm just going to put some dark, nice dark under here. Now the center, this area right in here, is the very darkest part, is right along here. And then the outer edge here is a little lighter. We'll highlight that here in a minute. But you see, we get kind of that cone shaped. See right here? I want this little area right here, not quite that dark. Get a little bit of the black out of there. Bring it over here to some of these. See, I'm just kind of going by the drawing. The drawing is showing me that I have these petals like that. See, there's going to be a little dark right in there, a little dark right in here. Right here. Now I'm going to go back with Cad Red, straight Cad Red. I'll start right here in this center area. I know that I want to lighten this whole area up here, but I want to keep that bottom, edge, see there where it's indented, that needs to remain dark. You can take a little bit of Cad Red and Cad yellow, or orange I mean, and even lighten one edge here just a little bit more. I will work on that some more. But okay, now I have to think about these petals. Like this petal back here, it's kind of shaped like that. And then this petal kind of goes down. I got to think about, see how this petal right here goes down. There's some dark there, and then maybe there's a petal that comes around like that. But I'm thinking about the lighter colors now. The tops of these petals as they come down, see it blends with that dark. See, this petal kind of comes out like this. But see right in there, it kind of blends right in there. This petal is the outer edge of this petal. But see, it kind of blends right in there, and that right there makes it look like it's going underneath. Gotta leave those darks. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to have to go back and darken my darks again. But you kind of get the idea. Petal out here. There's a leaf right here. Comes out. Right along this lip back here. There's going to be a little bit brighter. Now I'm going to go back with that dark again. See right in here? And I'm going to pull that out. See, that's that underneath of that petal. I'm going to pull this out. So those lines indicate where there are dark areas. See, if I grab that underneath here and pull it out into that lighter area, see, it gives me the effect of shadow underneath of here. With the edge of the petal being brighter. Again, I'm going to darken this side of this bowl shape right there. Okay, now those are lights and darks. We've got our midtones. I'm going to pull this down a little bit into my green. When I soften these edges right into my green, it just gives them a little bit more feel like they're part of the background. Now I've got that nice light and dark thing going on. I need to lighten up. I need to have a highlight. I'm going to take a little bit of cad red, cad orange, add a little bit of yellow to it, and a little bit of white to it. And I'm going to go up here to the edge, and I'm going to pull this down from that edge. And I'm going to highlight some of these edges. I've got this one edge back in here, remember, that's kind of hanging out over there. Connect those with a little line. This edge of this petal right here would have a little bit of a highlight. So I'm looking for the edges of petals now. See this right here would have a little bit of a highlight. There's a little bit of an edge right here on this petal. Kind of like that highlight. This is yellow, red, orange, and white. Okay, right in here, this little petal would have a little bit of a light on it. Maybe right there. I want to leave some of these dark. Don't want to cover up all your dark here. I'm going to go right back this edge right here. I just want to sparkle that up a little bit more yellow in it. See, that gives that bowl that depth. This little edge right up here, maybe a little spark. Don't want to overdo this. Maybe a little edge right in there. Okay, so there's that rose. Just one little more spark right there. Oh yeah, there we go. Brighten that up. Roses are all about lights and darks. Let's go up to the rose above that. Look for the bowl. Remember we said that it starts off with a cup shape. Right there's our cup. See, these areas down through here are going to be darker. The center area right here is going to be nice and dark. Right along that lip edge right there, it's going to be dark. Then this is a petal. See this petal right here? I know that right down at the edge, bottom edge of that petal is going to be dark. Underneath of this petal, right in here, is going to be dark. Right? That's kind of how you have to think about these. The part where the petal reaches down under and goes back into and connects to the base, that's how we determine where our darks are going to be, because we know that that area is where the petal is going to be darker as it goes back in under. See, we've got a petal there. There's a petal right back here that's connecting right down to that base. See, all these connect right down to this base right there. Right there's the base. Okay? Petal there, connecting down. All right, now, after we get our darks in, we go back to, these are red flowers, so I'm using the alizarin crimson as my shadow, and then I'm using cad red as the highlight. See, I'm going to pull that right into there. This petal right here, I'm going to pull that right back into that area right there. This petal kind of hangs out like right here. So that one's kind of comes up and then turns over. This one comes up and then goes down under. Right here is the bowl. We'll put that lightest area right there. Pull that down. This edge back here, it's going to be brighter. See, this area right here is our center. This right here is going to come back into see that petal, that's a petal right there. Then it kind of comes around and then it goes sweeps down into that center. And that petal goes in there. This petal kind of comes up and around, over, and then goes back down in. Okay, there's over. It goes over. Bring this one out a little bit more, right into there. All right, now I got to go back. I've got my mid-tone in there. I want to go back and make sure I have my darks in there dark enough so that these really stand out. Right in there, needs to be some dark. This petal has pull some dark out. Okay, now again, wipe my brush, go back into that yellow, orange, and red mix to get kind of a brighter color, because I'm going to go up here and I'm going to highlight this, the bowl. Okay, I'm going to highlight this petal right here because it's hanging out in the front here. That's kind of a little edge that goes right there. I'm using a flat brush, bright, because I don't want my petals to be all rounded. I want them to have a little bit more squared off edges. It gives the petals a little more character. And it's more realistic. Really want to punch up this edge right here. And then this edge back here, we have a little bit of a glow right here. Little yellow on the edge to kind of spark those up a little bit. Okay, there's that one. Let's go over to this one. Once again, we're going to start off with our dark red. I've added a little black to that alizarin crimson. I'm going to fill this area right in here. This area right in here is darkest area. I'm going to look for the bowl. See, the bowl is right here. I'll put some of that dark right around the bottom. Then I'm going to look for other areas where these leaves kind of go in here and attach. Here's one right there, right underneath of here. This leaf, this petal right here, see, is going to attach right there. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm highlighting, or I'm putting in a darker value there, where I know it goes underneath of other leaves. I think there's another one right here. Right around the back of this one. See, that petal is going to go down. Right? It's going to go down and attach. This little petal is going to go down and attach. Right there, right there. There's my darks. Wipe my brush out, get some cad red. Go right up here and pull these down. Pull this edge down right into that bowl. See that little bowl right there. And I'm going to go right back here. I know I want this edge right here to go down into that dark area there. I'm going to take the petal back here. This petal right here, see right there, I'm just going to shape the edge and then I'm going to pull it down into my dark that I put up there. I'll go back and restate that dark. This petal kind of comes out here and just kind of flips down into this area. So it kind of goes like that. This petal is right there. This petal is kind of just hanging a little bit of a lip out right there. This one has a little bit of an edge that we see right there. This petal kind of goes from the outside in to this area right there. We'll have to go back and restate that dark. This one comes out and goes into that dark. Let's restate our darks. Okay, here's my dark center. There's that dark right behind that cup. There's a little bit of this that comes right down through here. There's that edge right under there. Pull that out. I want this area right here to be nice and dark. Pull that out. That's going to be that right there is a little daisy. I'm going to put one more layer right underneath of here, just to kind of help finish this little flower out a little bit more balanced. And I'm going to bring this around a little bit there. Okay, got my basic darks and lights in there. Going to go back to my CAD red, orange, yellow, and white mixture. And I'm going to lighten this edge. This is where that bowl would be most lit, right there. Maybe a little bit right along this back edge, and little highlights going in there. Some of these petals right on their edges right there would have a little bit of a light. Mostly we're seeing edges on this petal, or this rose back here. We're not seeing right in here, we're just seeing the edges of petals. Okay. Now I want to brighten that edge up right there. This petal, ooh, really bright there. Pull that back in a little bit. Just looking for light areas that might need a touch of light on them. One more time, go back and restate some darks. Some of these are not real clear as to what's going on. Okay. I think those are our roses. We still can see in the pattern here, you can still see where we have daisies. These daisies are done very similar to the way we did our little red flowers, little stem flowers here, but they're done in different colors and a little different shape. So I'm going to take a little bit of white over to this blue. I want to start off all these white flowers with a little bit of blue in them. Maybe even a touch of blue and purple. But it's light. It's not real dark, but I don't want to start them off as white. See up here where we have this little petal? I'm just going to go ahead and fill that little petal in with this kind of purple color. And you see that? And there's another one right here. Now, where you can see the pattern, you can use that pattern, you can use that shape if you want. But it's really just the same kind of push, pull that we did for our other flowers. I want to be very firm. I'm using this small brush. I want to be very firm in my stroke because I want to mix the color, that whatever color is going on in that background, I want to go ahead and mix some of that right in with these little flowers. It's going to sit these flowers down right into the painting. But I want this to be a pretty good amount of paint, and I want to make sure that these flowers are not all exactly the same shape. And don't get carried away. There is a reason that these flowers are placed the way they're placed in the pattern. It's really to kind of lead the eye around the painting. So I'm really pushing and pulling because I've got these flowers that are sitting in amongst all this green. So I want to pull some of that green into these flowers and not make them completely white. While I'm up here in this area, let me go ahead and highlight these. Once I get those base coated in the purpley blue color, I'm going to take straight white, pretty good amount of straight white on my brush, and I'm going to highlight some of the leaves. Now you notice I said some. We don't want to highlight every single leaf. I'm thinking about where the sun might hit these. Also, some are going to be flipped up in different directions, and we want that. See, that gives these a lot more of a three-dimensional, realistic feel when we don't go highlighting every petal and we keep them, some of them turned up and some of the petals going in different directions. You see that? Now I can add just a touch of yellow, orangey yellow in the center. If you can see a center, you can add a little touch of that. Some centers you can't see, and you don't have to put some of this in every one. Okay, so there's those. I'm going to fix this edge right here a little bit. There. All right. In this area right here, there's only one little flower right there. Let's start off with some blue. And white. And then highlight a couple of edges. Little center, and then we're going to go over to this area where we have more. Again, I'm going to start off with that purple blue. That's Prussian blue, alizarin crimson, white, maybe even a touch of black to kind of dull it. We don't want it to be bright. Okay, some of these leaves or these flowers are turned upside down. So we don't want all of them to look like they're perfect little daisies. Okay, after I get them base coated in, I'm going to go back with some white. Kind of highlight, add extra petals. Make some of these brighter than others. Some of them are upside down. I kind of like that. All right, go back in where you see some have centers, and you can add your little orange yellowy type center. Some you can't see the centers if they're upside down. Okay, now last thing I'm going to do, wipe that brush and set it aside. I'm going to go back to my 1/2 inch brush, and I'm going to pick up some of the lighter greens, and I'm going to highlight some of my leaves. And I do that just simply by taking the light green, take the light green and sit it down on the edge and push back and towards the center. Right here's the leaf shape. Right here, if I set I've got some green on my paint. If I set that edge right down there, I push down and pull up and back and towards the center. See, I can give that edge of that leaf a little pull. Some of these leaves need stems to connect them to the painting. Okay, just using the edge of my brush. But if I take and sit it down right on the edge and pull back, sit down, pull up and back and towards the center. See, I leave that dark in the center there. That's what I'm looking for. Let's try a little bit on this one right here. Now I can also take a little bit of blue. If I know the leaf is in the dark, I can take a little bit of blue on my brush and I can add kind of a light blue edge, which gives it more of a shadow look. Maybe this edge will get a little light right in there. This leaf over here, it might have a little bit of light right on this edge here. Again, I'm sitting my brush down and I'm pulling back into the leaf and towards the back. I'm kind of rounding in right there. Over here, this leaf is probably going to get a little bit of a bluer, low light kind of effect on that edge right there, because those are in darker areas. When I switch colors, I'm just wiping my brush off, grabbing a little light is probably going to be just on the tip of these right here. There's a leaf right back in here. Kind of lost it a little bit. Bring it down. Give it just a little light on the tip. And we had another one kind of curving around here. Maybe a little light on the tip, not much. This one over here is definitely going to have some light. A little darker underneath of some of these flowers. Might add just a touch of highlight on some of my stems up here. Nothing fancy. Right in here, I'm going to add a leaf or two. Seems kind of empty right in here, so maybe there's a leaf coming out, like right there. Maybe there's some smaller leaves in here, you know, kind of set this down. Set your brush down, give it a little wiggle. Just to put some extra little foliage kind of things in here. All I'm doing now is I'm looking at my background. I'm making sure that the lights and the darks make sense. I darken that area up, or maybe I want to lighten it up right in here. Yeah, definitely want to lighten it up. Kind of got into my background here a little bit. Can clean up some of my edges of my roses if I need to. Okay. All right, just messing around there in the background a little bit. Darkening this area up over here. Pulling this down a little bit more, this color. Might want to brighten this area just a touch more right in here. At this point, I'm trying to be careful not to get into my flowers and things, so need to be careful. Needs to be nice and bright right there. Carry that bright on over here. Now the last thing that I did on this painting, right down here in this area, I put a rose petal that had kind of fallen off, right? So let's do that by just simply taking alizarin crimson. I'm just going to take that alizarin crimson, kind of make a little comma shape right there. Maybe add a little dark black to it. It's kind of the shape of a petal. It's kind of laying on its side. And I want to darken the center of it. Right there. Wipe my brush off, go back and get some straight cad red and add right around the top, right there, and right around the edge. A little bit of red. Bright red. I can take just a touch of the brighter yellow and white and just add a touch of a highlight right there. Now the thing that makes this sit down on the canvas is to put a shadow, a dark green shadow, right there. If you get it too big, you can always take a lighter green, pull it back in. We just want the shadow right underneath. and then blend out. Got a little bit of blending to do right here. And I can use my mop brush to kind of soften all that together. Still need to get that right in there a little darker. There we go. While I'm at it, I'm darkening that little edge right there, maybe a little bit more. Okay. Go around and look and see if you need to darken any darks. I think right next to my pot right here, I might need to darken that a little bit. Okay, I want to take my little Kemper tool and I'm going to sign it right down here. And you see that? Right here. This Kemper tool is great for signing your paintings. I'm going to call this one done.